Hello. Let us know if you can hear us, how it sounds, and if we're live or not. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. It's been a long time since we've went live like this with the computer and everything. We've went live on our phones, but not on the computer. So we just want to make sure everything's working correctly. That's why it's taken us a little while. We're kind of about 6 minutes late. So if you can let us know in the comments if you can hear us, if it's an echo or how it sounds, and if we're live. We'd appreciate it. Tommy, any comments?
I hadn't got there yet.
Oh. We got to pull up the comments first, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm going to try and pull it up on YouTube too.
Me too.
All right, they said it sounds good.
Okay, good.
No echo or anything?
No echoes? We're having a real issue hearing echo earlier.
And boy, it's using a lot of CPU, so.
I don't know what that means.
For
I
some
have a
reason.
lot of CPUs, y'all. I guess that's
awfully
good.
Dark.
Dark.
Yeah, it seems awfully dark.
I'm going to turn on the top lights up here.
Well, they're not pointed in the right place.
I can point them.
All right, we're just gonna go.
You want me to do it or no?
Yeah.
Oh no, then it's going to be awfully hot over here too. Okay, let's
We'll see how that works.
See if that's better. Is that any better?
I think that might be a little better.
Okay, so the reason I thought about doing this is because my daughter Chelsea had made a post on Facebook showing that she had gone to the store and they were out of bread, and that she was glad that she had learned how to make bread when she was young, and she bought all the ingredients for bread. And I thought, well, there's probably other people in similar situations. Yeah, not that we have to have bread to live, but it does make life a little easier if we can make a sandwich or have a piece of bread with supper or whatever, if that's what you're used to doing. So I thought that it would be beneficial. I do a lot of work with sourdough. Not everybody does sourdough. In fact, some people are scared of sourdough. They're more scared of sourdough than they are of making regular bread. So I haven't done a lot of videos with just regular bread, so that's what I'm going to do. A lot of people will have the ingredients. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to share with y'all tonight is just, I'm going to give you 4 different recipes. I'm going to make 3 different kind of bread. So this is going to be regular white bread. You can use half wheat flour, or say a 1/4 wheat flour and 3/4 white flour if you want to, or you could even throw some rye flour in there if you like cooking with rye. But anyway, I had started my water. I forgot to bring it over here though. I need to have 1 cup and 1 tablespoon of warm water. And sorry, my water's not warm anymore. I had it running. And when I say warm water, it could be like how if you were to test a baby bottle and pour it on your arm, you want to just not feel the heat, but you want it to be warm, kind of like a little warmer than room temperature, or body temperature, I guess is what it really is. And to this, you're going to want to add 1 tablespoon of yeast. Now that was 1 cup plus 1 tablespoon of water. And you may think that 1 tablespoon don't make a difference. It does. So I have this little neat thing that my friend Nunda Morris had, and I got me one at Walmart, and I love it. And I have it labeled in here. This is my yeast right in here. And so I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast. And there will be time for questions a little bit later, but I want to go ahead and get the dough rising. All right, there's the yeast. And I'm going to go ahead and put 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to cover up this bottom recipe because I'm going to be doing the wrong one. All right, so 1 cup and a tablespoon of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 tablespoon of yeast. And I don't know why, but I like to use a fork to stir it up, and so that's what I'm going to do. Then you're going to add 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. If you don't have butter, you can add some oil to it. You can use 2 tablespoons of oil. You may need to use a little bit more flour, and you can tell if the dough is too sticky, and we'll talk about that when we get to that point in a little bit. And I'm mixing this up by hand because some people may not have a mixer that you can actually mix the bread in, but if you have a mixer with a dough hook, or let's see, it's not even a dough hook that I use. It's this one that on my mixer that I use. So you could do this exact same process with your mixer. Some mixers don't handle a very stiff dough, so you might would have to take it out after you add a couple of cups of flour. So anyway, okay, that's my 2 tablespoons of butter. And if you can see, it's not melted real good, but as we work with it, it will get incorporated in there. All right, and then we're going to put in 1½ teaspoons of salt. And oh, by the way, y'all, we are going to talk about sourdough towards the end. I didn't want to scare anybody away thinking that's all we're going to talk about is sourdough, but we will talk about sourdough at the end, and I'm going to give you a recipe that I've been using for my sourdough that we absolutely love. All right, that was 1½ teaspoons of salt. And that's it until we get to the flour. So I'm just going to stir this in. So I'm going to go over it again. I always go over my recipes a few times because I'm scared I'm going to forget something, because I've done that before. 1 cup and a tablespoon of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of yeast, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1½ teaspoons of salt. Now I want to say that if you do not have sugar or you don't want to use sugar, that's fine. It does not have to have sugar. You can supplement honey in place of the sugar. You can put molasses in place of sugar. If you do a liquid sweetener in place of sugar, and even you could use stevia or something like that, but make sure, don't use, with stevia I think it's sweeter than sugar, so you might need to use less. I'm not real familiar with it. Might go ahead and put in 2 cups. Well, I'm going to put in 1 cup of flour right now. It's going to take a total of 3 cups of flour. You know, you may have to use a little bit more flour if you use a liquid sweetener, like honey. But not a lot more, not a ½ cup more, just a little bit more. Also, if you don't have butter, you could use oil, and it's the same thing. You know, my butter was not liquid, it was more in a solid state, so it would make your dough a little bit more sticky. And you would just add a little more flour at the end. My 2nd cup of flour. And this is just, you know, it's just very simple, just mixing it up. There's not a ton of kneading to making bread. I think that's what scares a lot of people, is having to knead it and knowing the dough is right. And it just takes practice to know. All right, now for my 3rd cup. And I'm going to put ½ of this cup in there. I do want to say too that if you are, well, I'm in South Mississippi or Central Mississippi. If you live in a different environment, you may use a little less flour and you may use a little bit more flour. And if it's raining outside or real dry outside, even if you live here in Mississippi, you may use a little bit different flour. It's about feel, and I'm going to show you that on the camera. All right, if you can kind of see how it's like this. It's still sticky, but it's coming together and everything. Now I'm going to put my hands in it, And I'm going to take some flour just to get this off my fork. And now's the time to knead it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, as I'm kneading it, I'm going to incorporate the rest of this flour in here. And y'all, I'm going to take questions if you have any questions. And I'm just pushing this down, turning it over, pushing it down, incorporating the flour that's in the bowl. But I want to get both sets of dough made up before I take questions where it can be rising as we're talking. I'm just turning it over and over, kneading it down like that. And it's still sticky. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of my flour in.
Is it bread flour or all-purpose?
It's all-purpose flour. I use wheat Montana Farms flour. It's not bleached. Uh-oh, had a trip. Everything's still going? Still there?
Looks like it.
Okay.
Can you still hear?
Can y'all still hear me? Tommy tripped over the...
Yeah, all I did was unplug it.
Oh yeah, the computer just came unplugged, so you should still be able to hear me. Okay, now you see, it's not near as sticky as it was. I still have a little bit of flour, so I'm going to keep pushing it in. Yeah, it's wheat Montana Farm flour. That's what I get. I order it from Walmart. Our Walmart used to carry it. That's how I found the flour. And then they quit carrying it. But I can order it. Of course, you have to make a $35 order. Such a lovely model. But they deliver it right to my house. So, which, of course, I don't know if they have it in stock or not. Because I did not check that. But I would imagine they do. But you can make this with any all-purpose flour. I feel like I have the best results out of this flour. Okay, now I've got that dough just in that amount of time. So it just changed. I think we've been on 13 minutes and I have dough made. Now, it may be a teeny bit, you know, I mean, it's not sticking to my hands, you see? See how it looks on the bottom? And you see how it stretches? It has a little bit like elasticity to it, like that. So they have something called a window pane test and stuff. I don't really understand a lot about that. Now, if you are using a mixer, now see, as I'm working with it, it does seem sticky, but I can still do that without it sticking terribly to my hands. If you're using a mixer, you need to watch real carefully once you're getting to the end of the flour, because you can over mix it. So then I'm going to set that to the side right there. And I'm just going to take my hand and rub to get some of this stuff off my bowl. I like to rise my bread in an oiled bowl. And you can use any oil. If you don't have oil, you don't have to use oil. But even you could rub butter on this. You could rub shortening on this. Anything that will make a little oily film. You can even use olive oil, which that's what I'm going to grab right here is olive oil. And like I said, I think I said that if you don't have butter, you can use olive oil. If you would prefer to use olive oil, use olive oil. You can use vegetable oil. You can use peanut oil. Any kind of oil in it.
How long does it take to rise?
This bread takes about an hour to rise. So I'm hoping we're going to have an hour show. Hoping I can get everything done. I may put it into loaves a little bit before an hour. We'll see how it goes.
Could you cheat and put it in like a low grade?
Yes,
oven?
if you wanted to cheat and let it make it rise faster. If it like a hot day like today, you could actually put it outside in your car. It will rise in about 30 minutes. You can turn your oven on, let it get a little heat in there, turn it off, and stick it in the oven. Anything like that. All right, I put it in here on the oil side, and then I turn it over so you see it's shiny. I've got oil on the top of it, and now I'm going to cover this with some saran wrap. And I'm going to let this double. And that should take about an hour. And then after you put it in a loaf, it should take about an hour.
For the second rise.
For the second rise, that's right.
So say that again. First rise, second rise.
The first rise, which is right now, will take about an hour. The second rise, once I put it into this loaf pan, will take about another hour. So it'll takes about 2 hours to have bread. Okay, next I'm going to work on a bread. We call it Artisan Bread. It is just a very, very basic bread. But honestly, it's our favorite bread. It doesn't have sugar. It doesn't have oil. It's just very basic, and we really, really like it. And so this is I'm going to go heat my water up again. It's got 2 cups of water. One.
Linda says she's heard you can let it rise in an Instant Pot on the yogurt setting.
Oh, really?
She's never tried it before.
That's interesting. All right, so there's my 2 cups of water, and we're going to put a tablespoon of yeast in it. A tablespoon of salt. There we go. And what did I do with my fork? Oh, there it is. Just give that a swirl, mix it up. And then to this, I'm going to be adding 4 cups of flour. Now this dough is going to be a much stickier dough than the other. And I have this in my glass bowl where you can see it better, but typically I mix it up in an ice cream bucket. I haven't been buying ice cream. I've been being good lately, but when we buy ice cream, we buy it by the gallon. And I have a plastic gallon ice cream bucket that I'll put it in, and then I'll put the lid on there just slightly and let it rise like that. Oh, there it is.
Tomas said you're rocking the house.
I'm rocking the house.
Hey everybody.
Oh, Tomas says hello. You can come say hello.
Say hey.
All right, here's my first cup of flour.
Hey everybody.
And then here's my second cup. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 cups in at the same time because there's so much liquid. And I think I said it already, this bread is kind of a batter bread. It's a real sticky bread. There's no kneading to this bread at all. And I want to say this too. I got this recipe, Big Family Homestead made this bread. And I believe this is the exact one because I watched a couple of other ones. And so I tried it and we loved it. This is our favorite loaf of bread. You would think it don't have sugar, it don't have oil, it don't have taste. It is really good bread and it's so easy. And then I'm going to tell you something else you can make with it. Not just bread, a loaf of bread. Also, you can, once you get your dough made and you let it rise the first time, you can take it and put it in the refrigerator and use it later. Or if you don't want to make as big a loaf as this is going to make, you can make smaller loaves and you'll have your dough. And I have found, now I make it with spelt flour too. I've been using spelt flour for myself, and I find the spelt flour does not last as long in the fridge, but the white flour, it's lasted me 2 weeks in the refrigerator. Okay, I believe that was 3 cups. I hope, y'all tell me, I was on number 3. So if that's the case, this is number 4. I'm pretty sure that was right, 3. And when you're making it, I just dump that whole 1/4 cup in. Don't do that. Use half of it and then use half later. Because when I made this dough when I was in Missouri at Doug and Stacy's conference, and it did not take as much flour as it does here. It's going to all have to do with your temperature and what's going on and everything. So do as I say, not as I do. I make this all the time here, so I know it can take, or a variation of this dough anyway. I know it can take all the flour. Okay.
Chicken Coop said, yep, that was 3.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can kind of tell by my dough the way it's looking. You see what a sticky mess this looks like? But we're not going to add any more flour to this right now. This is how it's going to stay, just like this. And we're going to cover this. I'm done with this dough. Now that was 4 ingredients. I'm going to go over it again. 2 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 4 cups of flour. And so we're going to cover this. And if you're covering it with something like I had, like the ice cream freezer, don't seal it all the way around, okay? Because it will pop the top off. So, okay, I'm gonna put that. And I'm gonna get this covered.
I'd like for you to go over those ingredients one more time, kind of slowly.
Okay.
And tell them, what are we gonna do? We're gonna make this available for free on the website somehow, the recipe? Or just post it. We'll post it in the description of the video later.
Okay, yeah, Tommy's going to put it in the description of the video later, but it was 2 cups of water.
2 cups of water.
1 tablespoon of yeast.
1 tablespoon of yeast.
1 tablespoon of salt.
1 tablespoon of salt.
And 4 cups of flour.
4 cups of flour, if needed.
Okay, I'm going to set this on top of there where I keep my bread dough separate. Okay, now what I want to show you, I want to tell you another recipe, very similar to this, but I make it with my sourdough starter. I did make this dough, and we had it, and it was delicious, but I wanted to change it over to sourdough. So I made up a sourdough recipe going by this recipe. And let me see if I can find it. Well, I thought I had it marked right here. Oh, it was on a piece of paper. That's right. So with this bread, this bread dough that we just made, the Artisan Bread, we're going to make a loaf of bread. But I'm going to show you something else I do. We make pita bread with it, and it is amazing. And I wanted to give you the recipe for using sourdough starter if you use sourdough. And that is 1 1/4 cup of warm water, a half a cup of your sourdough starter, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, and you can put a little yeast in there if you want to, and maybe 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and then I use 3 cups of flour. So 1 1/4 cups of warm water, a half a cup of starter, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and 3 cups of flour. Mix it up in the same way. So I'm going to go ahead. I have some in the refrigerator. That's the nice thing about it. After you have made this dough and it's risen the first time, you can put it in the refrigerator. That's what I did earlier today. And so now I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to show you how we make our pita bread. Did you want to say something to me, Tommy? You look like you want to tell me something.
Our pastor, Chris Shepherd, is watching, and he's texting me the ingredients. You know, he said, yeah, it was 4 cups. Then he said something about 1 tablespoon of buttermilk, and you know.
Don't get people confused.
Serenity Mountain Farm wants to know if you've done sourdough with spelt yet.
Yes, that's what I have been using. In fact, I can show you my spelt.
We have fallen in love with spelt flour.
I actually made these 2 doughs up before we decided to go live, before Chelsea had made that post, and I thought, well, you know, it might be a good idea for me to show some simple breads for people that may not be familiar with making bread. This is my spelt. Now, I only did like a half a recipe of it because I'm low on spelt flour, and so I wanted to, I'm just eating that because Tommy doesn't have a problem eating wheat. So that's my spelt.
And that's not mold, you see. That's flour that just fell off of Patty's hand.
Well, that's because I had gotten some out earlier and made pita with it.
Yeah, Chris said he's a troll. Our pastor is trolling us.
But anyway, now again, I want to just make sure, because we've made two different doughs. This is what we're calling the artisan bread, okay? This is the dough for that. I've just taken it out of the refrigerator. I made it earlier today. So, Tommy, come put this back in the fridge, please. And this is the white, just the white bread. I made that for Tommy and Tomas. So the way you do it, and I want you to see, it's still very sticky. It's not a firm dough. It's still sticky. So the reason you saw flour in my spelt is because what I do is I take me a little flour and I'm gonna pinch me off a ball. Well, I'm gonna put some flour on here first. You have to use a lot of flour as you're rolling things out. But anyway, what I do, Tommy, can they see this on the camera?
What's that?
What I'm fixing to do in here.
Let me see if I can.
Or I can come up closer like
yeah,
that.
but hang on a second. Turn it toward me a little bit. Let's see if I can zoom. Yeah.
You can get Tomas some supper if he's hungry.
He can wait. Okay.
Okay. What I do is I have flour, a little bit of flour, and I just kind of sprinkle it, and I stick my hand in.
Roll it down more. Yeah.
And I grab me a ball. Like that.
All right, wait.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest, I don't make pretty pitas, but they taste good.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Now I don't know what to do.
What's
There it
wrong?
went.
You zoomed in?
That's weird. I'm using Wirecast Go with my phone, and never mind. They know what happened.
Okay, you can put that back in the fridge for me too. Okay, so then I have this, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll it around and get some flour on it, because like I said, it really sticks. Let me light my fire first.
Christy wants to know how to do gluten-free, and she asked, Christy Shepherd asked, is spelt gluten-free?
Spelt is not gluten-free, and if you are a true celiac, you shouldn't try it. But spelt does have gluten, but the gluten is different. No, I have noodles for you that you're going to have for supper. Excuse me, I have made something for supper for you. Let's take care of the hungry boy.
Sorry for her interruption.
Say it again.
Sorry for her interruption.
Here, you get the.
Hey, why don't you sing the Bruno Mars song for him?
What is that? Anyway, back to spelt. Spelt does have gluten, but a lot of people that are gluten intolerant can eat spelt, and it is so much easier to work with, even though the gluten strands are different or something like that. It does have gluten, but it doesn't seem to bother a lot of people, and I've had good success with going to spelt. And like I said, it's a lot easier to work with than gluten-free flour. Anyway, so I want plenty of flour on my ball of dough. And this is something that we got, this little rolling pin was something we got when we were playing with fondant, me and the girls. So anyway, it works great for this. And like I said, mine aren't pretty, but they work. And maybe if I didn't always hurry trying to do it, they would turn out better. And I find with the spelt, I do the spelt just like this. Sometimes you may have to add a little bit more flour with the spelt, but but you keep turning it over and over and rolling it, and keep plenty of flour on it, and it works. I guess he's hungry too. So, anyway. This is really our go-to bread. I really haven't been making any loaves of bread. I am gonna, of course we'll have this bread, but this is our go-to bread now because it's so fast. I keep this dough in the refrigerator all the time, and you just have to pinch off some and have fresh bread. And I don't do it super thin. And this one's turning out better than they normally do. Usually they're just oblong. So, and I learned this trick. I forget doing it's not fondant.
Yeah.
Is it fondant?
Yeah.
Anyway, that stuff they put on cakes. You kind of do it like it's fondant and roll it up on you. Whoa! I caught it. Anyway, to get it up without sticking. So then, now if you don't have, I love doing this on my cast iron. You could use a pan like this, or any pan, cast iron pan. But if you don't have cast iron, that's fine. You can use stainless steel or aluminum, whatever you have. You just kind of want to, you don't want to use a thin bottom pan. You want to use a thicker bottom pan. And I usually cook this over here on this burner, so I don't know how quickly that's going to cook. You cook it rather fast. So, but anyway, but like I said, I typically use the sourdough recipe that I gave you to do this, and that's what this was made out of, and it just is really easy. I have tried many pita bread recipes because we like hummus, and I wanted to be able to make my own pita bread, and I have tried for years, and when I tried this, it just was so easy, it worked. I wanted to say too that you can make your pizza crust out of this dough. Do it the same way. Sometimes I make the pitas and I just don't cook them as much, and I maybe cook one side more, and that's the side I put my sauce on and my cheese, and I put it in the oven, and the other side goes down, and it gets a little browner, you know, so it makes a good pizza. In fact, within the last week I made Tommy and I a little pizza with it, and it turned out fine. And I want to, if Christy's still there, I want to tell her I can make, that's what they say, people that are not celiac but just gluten intolerant, that to do a spelt test to see, because so many people can. And what that means is when you've been good, you haven't had any gluten, try eating something made with spelt, and you'll see if you have a reaction and if it bothers you, because it does make life much easier if you can eat spelt. And so far so good with me. So let me see, I have some notes here, so I want to make sure. Oh, also I have made buns with this dough, and with the white bread you can make hot dog buns, hamburger buns, you know, just little buns to make sandwiches on. But with this, Artisan Bread, I have made Tommy and I little buns with it. And when you put it in the refrigerator, it seems to dry out a little more, and it's a little easier to work with. This is not going to be the easiest for me to work with. In fact, it's been a long time since I've worked with it at this point, so I'm a little worried about it because it is rather sticky.
Do you oil the pan for the pita?
I did not oil my cast iron pan because all I do is I put it under hot water because it'll have burnt on flour on it. But I'll just put it under hot water and wash it off. Every once in a while I oil it. I probably should do it every time, but I don't. So,
what if you're cooking your pita on something other than cast iron? Do you need to oil it?
I would do a little test on it because there is so much flour on it. It may not stick, but I would do a little test because it would be hard to get up if it stuck. And watch mine stick. It never does stick, but I did not oil it, so I was looking to see if I had a little. Oh, here's a little spatula.
Beth says, "Hi Patty, thanks for your help with my starter. It finally took off great."
Oh, great, Beth. I'm glad. Well, you could be making some of this sourdough one. All right, I'm just going to show you. It looked like it was kind of cooked, but it's not. So I'm going to put it back on there and because it starts bubbling on top. I don't know if you can see the bubbling on it, but I just like to check it. I have burned. Tommy's had a little brown, too dark a spot on it today, but he didn't complain. So, so you know,
homesteading the pioneer way. It's not oil in the pan like fry bread. It's the pan is dry.
Right. Yeah, the pan's dry, and it's just got a little lip on the pan. Oh, I want to learn how to make fry bread. Somebody was telling me about that. Fry bread, because I think that would be interesting. Not something I need to eat all the time, though.
Well, when I zoom in using the camera like this, it loses focus. So again, this is using my iPhone with Wirecast Go. It's not like I'm using the camera setting on the phone. So.
All right, is there any other questions or anything? While this is cooking, we can answer some questions.
I really haven't had, hey, White Picket Fence. Lita Faye Andrews says teaching the great-grandson bread making, so much fun. He's 4.5 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all, the simple, said can't wait to try the simple bread. The simple bread would be perfect for a 4.5-year-old.
Yeah, because he'll be able to stir it and everything, so.
I don't think we haven't had a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yes, Country Homestead Preacher, the live stream will be, just part of the video library. So once the live stream ends, it'll take a little while for the video to process after the stream ends, but then you can access it with the same link you used to get here. Let me know if y'all hear that.
Tommy, see if they can still see it. I moved it over to my faster burner.
Yeah, they can, but I mean it's far away because I can't really zoom.
It was close. It was better for the other one.
No, neither one I can't really zoom, but
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Another thing I was going to do, I do make a lot of sourdough, and so just in case there's anybody on here that's never made sourdough, I thought about just showing you how to make a sourdough starter. I'm going to do it the way I have always done it. Well, not always, but the way I find that works the best. And so I definitely want to show y'all that too.
Right. Before you get started on that, Jolene from Smith's Nature Friendly Farm says, would you recap the recipe of this one? And we'll put all pertinent recipe information in the description of the video. Hopefully tonight, once it gets processed and I can access the description. But could you please recap the recipe for that one? Okay.
Well, it's kind of like two different recipes. If you're not using sourdough, you use 2 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 4 cups of flour. And you'll mix all that together and mix up 1 cup of flour at a time till you get to the 4th cup. Then you'll want to just do a little bit at a time. And you're going to make a batter like this. It's going to be very much of a batter bread. If you're using sourdough, you're going to use 1 1/4 cup of warm water, 1/2 cup of starter, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of yeast if you want to, and 3 cups of flour. And this is the one without sourdough, but the one I took out the fridge does have sourdough in it because I made it up earlier for us, or for Tommy and Tomas. All right, if you can see that big bubble right there, I think it's about time to turn it over. And it's going to grow again.
And it usually don't take this long.
No, it's because that burner is slower right there. And this burner over here is a lot hotter.
Bandana said the kitchen looks familiar.
Oh, hey, Bandana Grandma. I don't know where the pot lid is. Oh, I do know what's that. Right here. It's on my food.
Going back to the very first dough that you made, Dawn Lamb of Lambkin Farm asked, can you add jalapeno and cheese to that dough?
Most definitely can. In fact, I've got videos up of showing how to make my jalapeno cheese bread. And you can make it into a loaf if you want to. I do it another way, and on the videos that I do for the farmers market. So you most definitely can do that. And it would be delicious. I do it with sourdough because I make a bunch of sourdough for the market, but this white bread makes it excellent. This white bread also makes a great pizza loaf, and I have some videos on pizza loaves. Now I think I made them with, I may have made them with white and with sourdough. Honestly, the pizza loaf is my favorite made with the white bread. That makes me want to make that. So,
And the purpose of this video is to help people right now who, Patty referenced Chelsea, our daughter, making a post today. She was talking about on Facebook. Some of you may not know what she's talking about, but Chelsea went to go buy some bread in the store and they were out, but she bought all the ingredients to make bread because her mama had taught her how.
Yep.
So Patty decided to jump on live in case people can't find bread in the store, or they don't want to, or are unable to go to the store. You can have bread in your house.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I don't want to go out right now. I've decided I'm going to stay home, and just stay out of the stores the best I can. If there's an emergency or if I really need something, I guess I would go. But I mean, my plan is to stay home. But okay, this is how it looks when it comes out of the pan. If you like it darker, you can make it darker.
It's kind of washed out in the light.
It's hot, is why I put it on the plate.
Oh, good, because it would burn my delicate little finger.
Yes.
There you go. Look at that.
But
it actually looks a little darker. The spots look a little darker on camera than they are in real life, and you ain't kidding. That's hot.
But anyway, what I like to do when I take it out, and you see it is pliable. You could eat it just like this. Usually I'm making more than one, at least for me and Tommy. So what I do is I put it on my plate, and this is the lid to my big pot, and I just put it on top, and it'll get kind of steamy on here, and it'll keep the bread nice and pliable. I have not made up a lot of these ahead of time and kept them in the fridge or anything like that. So I don't know how the staying quality is for them. I am thinking about maybe selling some of these at the market. So I need to experiment with that. And maybe this one can be my experiment because I've already got supper cooked. So we're not going to be having pita for supper.
I just want to say I'm a big pita eater. And, we love, our favorite cuisine is Lebanese cuisine. And I'm going to tell you, this is the best pita that I have ever put in my mouth. I have never gotten a better pita, better tasting pita, a better pita texture.
And he honestly likes the spelt the best.
I like the spelt pita the best. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about in a restaurant, never gotten any better, never bought any better.
Let me just show.
And it's just fantastic.
I do want to show like how the inside is and everything, just like if you tear it apart, it's got plenty of dough to it. You could make it thicker or thinner, however you want, but it's just really nice. I mean, we just have really, really loved it. So, but that's I'm gonna keep that put up, and I'm gonna put it in a plastic bag and see how the quality lasts to the next day. I would think it would do pretty good, but I don't know. All right, I'm going to show you how to make a sourdough starter from scratch. And if you're not familiar with sourdough starter, instead of using yeast, once you get a good and active starter, you can just use your sourdough starter in your bread recipes. And I'm just saying this just in case there's some people on here that don't understand what sourdough is. And because, if you don't have yeast, or if you don't want to eat yeast for whatever reason, you can just use sourdough. And the way I do it is the way I found it has worked the best for me, is I use milk in place of water. I find that my sourdough starter gets more active quicker using the milk. If you don't want to use milk, if you don't have milk, then use water. And every place that I say to do milk, just use water. It's no big deal. You may have a little bit different tasting starter, but it will still be a starter. And to be perfectly honest, most starters are made with water, not milk. Also, the same for the sugar. I put a little sugar in my starter. If you don't want sugar or you don't have sugar, you don't have to use sugar. So you could just use half and half water and flour. But so I put, to start my sourdough starter, I use 2 tablespoons of milk, and I do it a little bit differently than what most people do it too. I start out with a very small amount because I don't want to throw it away. So that's why I start out with little increments of it. So you do 2 tablespoons of milk and 2 tablespoons of flour. So that's half and half, milk and flour, and then half of that in sugar. So I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I always use wood to stir, or plastic. Some people say it makes a difference. Some people say it don't make a difference. I just do it because I don't want to mess things up. So do it just because.
It says, is it whole milk?
It is. I use whole milk. I don't see a problem with using 2% or whatever, because that I think it has. I think the reason it gets active quicker is because milk will sour, you know, and everything. So this is what I do. I just stir it up like that, and it's going to have little clumps in it, and that's okay. You see the little clump right there?
That's why you use sugar.
I use sugar in my starter because I think it helps to feed the yeast. And this is for us, so I can use my hands all I want. But anyway, one thing that I do too, now, I haven't always done it, I take, and I like to use a wide mouth because it's hard to get this spatula in regular mouth jar. But I take my spatula, and see, I could have just stirred it the whole time with this, but I think it stirs better using a wooden spoon. I take it and I scrape down. Not that this starter is going to start rising yet, but I want to know when it does start rising. And this will be ready. You know, you got to continue to feed it. But this will be ready when it starts doubling. That's how I go by that it's ready, when it starts doubling in volume. Like it's here now. When it comes up to here, and it'll fall back down, but you can see it on the jar that it rises up. Then I say that then I figure it's going to raise my bread up like I want it to.
Talk about using a rubber band to show where it's at.
And then another thing that I do, all right, first, and then I'm going to cover it with a paper towel and a ponytail holder that's kind of stretched out. You can use a rubber band too. And then what I like to do, now this starter right now, because I've just started it, it's not going to be growing. But in a few days it should be. And I take a another ponytail holder that's stretched out, and I put it at the level that the starter is on the jar, like that. Where that way I know, because when it rises up, it kind of sticks to the jar, and you may not remember. And then there are numbers on the jars that you can say, okay, it's at number 1. It's at 1 cup today, and if it gets more than 1 cup, you'll know. But I forget from day to day. I'm like, now what number was it on? So I've even put black marks a lot on my jars to be able to tell. But then I have black marks a lot all over my jars. So I've just gotten to where I do this, and it's just nice to be able to see how much it really does rise. So, but that's simple, and like I said, you could have used 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of flour. Now, when you go to feed this, the next day, let this set 24 hours. The next day, you're going to feed it in small increments still. You're not going to come and put a cup of anything in here. It's going to be small increments, and that's going to build. And if you go to our website on AldermanFarms.net, /ebooks.
The link is on the screen.
There's a link on the screen right now.
Yeah, they can see
okay.
AldermanFarms.net/ebooks.
Okay, it's on the screen now. We have a free download, and it has my sourdough bread recipe, and it also has the instructions how to rehydrate a sourdough starter. We do sell those, but if you start your own starter like this, you would just go to I don't remember. Let's see. You would go to day 2 for feeding your starter. Day 1 on the download on the internet is rehydrating a sourdough starter that you have bought. But this, if you make it up at home like this, you're going to want to go to day 2 on day 2 and start feeding your starter. It may take it'll take a little longer for your starter to get active, usually 7 to 10 days. Maybe a little bit longer, but it's warm here. If it's real cold where you're at, it may take a little longer. But by starting out with just a little bit, the goal is that you don't have to throw any out. A lot of times when you start starters, you start with larger volumes and it's not active very quickly, so you have to throw some out because you'd be working with such a large amount of stuff. That's why I started using the small increments like that. So then you just take care of it. And my first feeding that I have written down in here is 1/4 of a cup of milk, 1/4 of a cup of flour, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. You could actually just feed it just like how I started it, with that small amount, and then go to the 1/4 of a cup. That would be fine too. So, all right, now let's look at our dough. Our dough may not be completely ready because
take a couple of questions and let it.
Oh yeah, we can take some questions.
All right, so let's see. Charmaine Montgomery asked, could you replace the whole milk with rice milk?
Yes, and I guess my question would be, does rice milk sour? I think it's the composition of the milk kind of wanting to sour that helps it to get active quicker. But I would say yes. And here's the thing, even if it doesn't speed it up like regular milk does, to me it's going to be a richer addition to it than water. The rice milk would be, So, is there another question?
Yeah.
Wait, can I say one?
I'm trying to picture.
Milk and rice things?
Yeah. Yeah, another question would be, let's see. Linda Ennis wants to know, just curious, have you ever tried brown sugar in your starter?
I have not tried brown sugar, and that's interesting, and I could see how that would change the flavor some in a good way, and maybe make it richer, because brown sugar should have some of the molasses still in it. That would even help to jumpstart it. Now I am using organic sugar, so it's not white sugar, but brown sugar would be even better. That's interesting. I've never tried that.
Serenity Mountain Farm wants to know if you do spelt the same way, if you're going to be making sourdough with spelt flour.
Okay, I did. I've got my spelt recipe written down. I made bread with the spelt bread dough, like I do my normal sourdough bread loaves. And spelt, you need more flour. And so I need to play with the recipe for making loaves of bread. I do plan on trying to bring some of that to the market. But I've got to play with my recipe because I had to add in a lot more spelt flour than what I would have if it would have been white. So what I want to play with is reducing the water, the liquid down. That's hard to start. You don't start out your bread with less liquid and can add it later, because that would kind of be a mess. But I don't hardly have any spelt flour right now, so I don't want to play with that right now. I had ordered some from Azure, and they were actually sold out. So I'm going to make another order this month, and hopefully I'll get my 30 pounds of it. And when I get my 30 pounds of it, then I'm going to really start playing with it with different breads and stuff, because I really want to do a non-sourdough spelt bread too, and to see how that goes too.
Does it because of the differences you said, does it then not lend itself to conversion, to start it off as a regular sourdough and then convert it to spelt?
Oh, well, the way I started my spelt sourdough starter is I just took like this much of my regular sourdough I had going, and I started feeding it spelt and milk, and I didn't do as much sugar. I found the spelt, you tasted the sugar a little bit more than you do in the white, and so like every other feeding, I would put a little sugar in it. But the spelt really reacted great doing like that. And my starter was in the refrigerator. I took it out of the refrigerator and started feeding it spelt and milk and a little sugar every once in a while, and it really did amazing. So I was really pleased with my spelt starter. But I took it, I took it off of a regular white flour starter, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Very timely. This is a very timely live stream, because Weber Homestead said they think they're going to do a starter tonight because their
great.
local store is out of bread and they won't have any till Thursday. And Weber Homestead also noted down there that said, don't forget Patty has a sourdough book on the website. They purchased it and was so glad they did.
Oh, well, good. This is what I'm going by, looking at. This is my little sourdough book. This is a paper book, but what we sell from the website, I sell these at conferences, but the other book is an ebook, so you can get it instantaneously, but it is only sourdough. The other recipes that we talked about tonight are not in here. This is just sourdough. But thank you for that. But let me tell you my spelt recipe, and I only have it written down as a half recipe because, like I said, I like to make up this artisan bread dough and keep it in the fridge, and we just pull off of it and make pita whenever we want a sandwich. So I've reduced it down to a half of a recipe, and it does not last that long in the refrigerator like the white. The white will last 2 weeks, the spelt about a week, and then it starts kind of getting runny and watery. I still used it because it smelled okay, but it wasn't, in the best shape. But for the half recipe, I used a half a cup of water, a fourth of a cup of starter, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and I used an 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and then I have written 1 to 1.5 cups of flour on here. So let's see if that's a half recipe, the whole recipe. Maybe it didn't take quite as much spelt. Maybe that was the difference on this recipe. Maybe it didn't take quite as much flour. See, I made it today and I didn't pay any attention to what I was doing. I just did it. Because I kind of look at the consistency to going. I just go by the consistency. So, okay, let's get on to putting these. So do I have any more questions?
Yeah, let's see. A couple of questions and comments. Hang on. Just a minute here. Doggone it.
He's lost it.
Yeah.
It's hard. And if y'all think about it, please put your questions or comments that you want Tommy to read in capital letters, and that's a little bit easier to find.
Yeah, Lana Lincoln says, love making bread. It's very calming. Okay, Weber Homestead says, Patty, have you used a Pullman pan with your sourdough loaves?
Okay, Weber Homestead said, have I used a Pullman pan? I'm going to venture and say no, because I'm not quite sure what that is. But it might be, let me see. It might be one of these pans. Is this what that is? Because I hadn't used it. So, anyway, no.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. Okay, Charlotte's Rub-a-Dub Homestead says, Tomas, loud.
About buttermilk.
What about?
What about buttermilk? Patty, would that be a no-no?
Oh, buttermilk. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Buttermilk with buttermilk is a cultured thing. Sourdough is a cultured thing. I don't think you should feed.
They might fight.
Wait. All right, here's my sourdough starter that I've been using. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to feed buttermilk to this, because they're two different bacterias, two different cultures going. But I would be interested to know, I need to make some buttermilk too. I would be interested to know how that would work with starting a starter from scratch. If I would have had buttermilk and put buttermilk in here instead of milk, I'm wondering if that wouldn't make a really quick starter. I'll have to experiment with that. Thank you, Charlotte. If you experiment with it, let me know. Charlotte, I believe Charlotte is who got us those bread trays, huh, Tommy?
Yeah.
Yes, Charlotte was great. She helped us out by getting us some more bread trays for my tomatoes, actually, because I had bread trays for the bread, and that stacked up, and she scored some more bread trays for me. So anyway, that was such a blessing. Thank you again, Charlotte.
Ellen Bloomfield said she printed out the ebook and had it bound.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you, Charlotte. No, did I say the wrong name?
No,
I think I did. Ellen. Yeah, I did. That's good. That's a great idea. She said she printed out the ebook and had it bound. The ebook, The ebook is $15, Tommy, but we put it on sale for $10 a lot of times. In fact, why don't you put it on sale for $10 or whatever you do?
Well, I can't do that right this minute.
Okay, so if you do want the ebook, Tommy's going to put a discount code on there. And where you can get it for $10 instead of $15.
I'll tell you what we do. Tell them to use discount code LOADOFF. LOADOFF.
Okay.
That's Taurus.
Yeah. Okay. Use the discount code LOADOFF. LOADOFF.
That's living on a dime.
Yeah, living on a dime.
LOADOFF. All caps.
All capital letters. Use that discount code. That's our friend Mike and Tara's discount code. If they, because she's gotten some of my starter from me a long time ago too. Anyway, use that, and that'll give you $5 off, and so it'll be for $10. And also, what's going to say? Ellen she printed it out and bound it, so that's great. Because I much rather have the paper, but it's just really it's expensive to have to mail it. And it's a small book. It's not a big book. We couldn't charge $20 for the book and pay for shipping. So anyway, it's got quite a few recipes. Everything that I do for the farmers market is in here. It's got my cheese bread and everything. So anyway, if you're interested in that, but let's get back to our white bread, and I don't think it's risen up that much.
Speaking of the white bread, Linda Ennis says, what temperature did you cook the white bread and for how long?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that. You're going to cook this white bread dough on 350 for about 30 minutes. You're going to want to start checking it at about 20 to 25 minutes. Start checking it, and it could take as much as 35. You know how all ovens are different, and I've learned, speaking of Linda's asking that, because I was sweating it when I was at a conference up there, because I did have to bake my bread longer up there in Tennessee. So, I bake it at 350 for about 30 minutes. So, depending on your elevation, how different that will be. Okay, a thing with this bread, the white bread, what you're going to want to do is have a little oil on your hands, and I'll just use butter because it's sitting right there. And you're just going to want to push it down a little bit. And it's going to have a little oil on it from being in the bowl. And then you're just going to shape the dough. Now, if you wanted to make rolls, I have this pan here, and I like to use parchment paper. You would just pinch off and roll it round and set your rolls out. If you wanted to make hamburger buns, you would pat it out. And if you have something, even a wide glass that you could cut it with, or you could shape them each by hand. The hot dog buns, so I can show you that like right quick. Like the hot dog buns, what I would do, and even if you're just going to make a sandwich on it, but you just kind of pull it out like that, and see that'll double in size. And so that makes you can have a hot dog, or we eat sandwiches a lot of times, what we would do on that. So, but anyway, to make your loaf of bread, it's very simple. You have a loaf pan. If you don't have a loaf pan, you can use any kind of pan. You could use this pan. You could use a cookie sheet, because this dough stays together good. You see this? You could actually take this dough, and I like to turn in my edges like this to make my top pretty. And you could just set this in this cake pan. You could set it on just a cookie sheet like this, let it rise, and then bake it. But I'm going to put it into a loaf pan. And so I'm going to do my edges like that and pull it in. And you see how this dough is? It's just pretty dough now. And just roll it under like that. And if you want your bread to have a nice crown on it, a nice risen top, you're going to put it in your pan like this and let it grow up, and it'll fill in the pan and rise up. If you want it to be a flat top, you would just press it all down in there like that, where it'll be flat. I like to have a risen top bread. So I just leave it like this, and I'm going to leave this sit for about an hour and until it doubles, and then I'm going to bake it on 350. So that's that. All right. Now this is the artisan dough. And it's a sticky looking mess. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this in here. Now, I'm going to tell you this. You could have, I could put it, well, I think I might do it. Well, you could have like this bowl and have the parchment paper in there, or even the pan, and push it in there and let it rise like that. And then you can heat up this pan in the oven before it's time to bake, you know, right before it's time to bake. Get this pan hot and then pick your dough up on the parchment paper and set it in here. What that'll do is it'll make a really crispy hard crust on the bottom. So anyway, but I'm not going to do that this time. I am going to put my parchment paper in here though. And oh, this dough, that's what I was going to say too. Like I was telling you how you could have set this dough on the pan and all. You can't do that with this dough. This dough is a much sticky dough. It needs something with sides to help it go up because it'll go out. Because it's a very, very sticky dough. Oh, it's so sticky. Anyway, I'm going to put a little oil on my hands. And what I want to do, I know, you know what? I might do this. Maybe I need to use this. Like I said, it's been a little while since I've played with this dough like this. I'm going to use some flour. And what I'm doing is I'm just scooping it around like this. It's making the flour kind of go up under the edges of it. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying not to really deflate this bread. I don't want to make it totally deflated, okay? I want to take it very gently and get it over here. And I'm just sprinkling flour around the edges because as I'm doing this, it's kind of getting up under there. All right, now I'm going to see if this is going to work for me. And I'm just going to try and take it and get it out like that. There we go. Not too bad. Now, you see, it didn't totally deflate this bread, me doing that to it. And I have my razor somewhere. Here it is. All right, then you're going to want to go ahead and score it if you want to score it. Well, no, you're going to want to put your butter first. And I'm telling y'all, me and Tommy were amazed when we had this. Uh-oh, look, I got to go heat my butter up again. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I tried to prepare, but it got hard again. All right, you're just going to want to brush it with butter. Had a bubble coming up right there. So, like if you did get too much flour on the top of it or whatever, you're going to kind of cover it up with this butter anyway.
We got to do something about our lights because it's just all so washed out, you know.
Yeah, it probably would be better if the lights were off for this. This is just a razor blade and this fancy knife right here. And so then I'm going to go ahead and score it. I'm never real great at scoring. You can do this with just a knife too, a sharp knife. Not scoring very much for me. Y'all see what sticky dough it is. But I'm telling you, we love this bread. And this was no kneading at all for this. Okay, now I'm just going to let this rise. And it may not take an hour to rise. It would be better if I held it like that. Better. Oh, Tommy, it's going to slide out, babe.
I'm trying not to let it slide out.
You might need to turn the phone, not the pan. Don't jiggle it, you're gonna make it fall.
Sorry.
Man. But anyway, this may not take an hour to rise because it's already, it didn't totally deflate like I did the white bread. So anyway, that is a couple of quick breads, well, they're not quick breads. Speaking of quick breads, I've thought about doing this for quick breads too. Show you a few different quick breads that I do. Biscuits being one of them.
These are simple breads.
Yeah, these are simple breads. Anybody can do them, and you know, sometimes they don't turn out perfect or just right. Just my pita, honestly, y'all, seriously. Huh, Tommy, he'll vouch for me. That's the prettiest pita I think I've ever made. Yeah. Usually they look really bad, so it really
but they
turns
taste
out.
amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, that's the thing. And a lot of times, if bread don't turn out real great, one thing that you can do is make croutons with them. You can cut them really thin and make crackers, toast them, put butter on them, toast them, and make crackers. You know, so there's different things you can do. You can make breadcrumbs with bread that doesn't turn out so great. All you have to do is put it in the food processor and crumble it up, you know, if it's too hard or whatever. But these are just simple breads, and that I feel like anybody could do. It just takes a little bit of practice. If you've never made bread before, get your ingredients together, put the video on, and do it with me step by step. You know, pause it if you need to pause it, and you know, do it like that, and you can do it. I learned how to do it. I learned to make bread when I was 30 years old. So, you know, it's not something that I grew up with. So, you know, I feel like anybody can do it.
That was just last year, huh?
Oh yeah. 23
All
years
right,
ago.
let's see.
Yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, Charlotte, by the way, says she's got a lot more than bread trays if you need any.
Ooh,
so,
I might.
Carly Ann says, y'all are the best.
Hey.
All right.
Aw. Hey, Carly Ann.
Let's see. Weber Homestead said you should have said pratted and pray that the dough doesn't prat.
Oh, yeah, the Pratt, yeah.
No, it's good. Pratting is good.
Hey, Annie. Hopefully you're safe in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Love you.
Okay, apparently, oh, that was sweet. Apparently a Pullman pan is long like a sandwich loaf and the pan has a lid.
Oh, no.
I guess we're not familiar with that. Sorry.
I'm not, and you know, I probably ought to watch more bread videos than I do, and maybe I would know what that is.
Linda Ennis says, Patty, your bread was wonderful. Never doubt yourself. Hugs from Crossville.
Oh, thanks, Linda. Love you. I appreciate you.
Kelly, PB fan, loves round loaves on a cookie sheet with slits on top like Artisan Bread.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte wants to know if you could use a Dutch oven to bake the bread in.
Yes. In fact, I wanted to play with some of that different kind of baking and stuff like that. But a Dutch oven really adds... and honestly, I didn't want to get into anything like that on this video because I want anybody that hasn't ever made bread or that's scared of making bread, I want them to feel like they could do it and not talk about so many different things. But that's one thing I've wanted to play with. I have a Dutch oven that's a cast iron Dutch oven, and I believe my son Cameron, when he made bread, not even a year ago, he started doing sourdough bread, and he did great. He made some beautiful loaves, and he used the Dutch oven method. So I am a little familiar with that, and I do want to try it.
That other Deborah said that's exactly what she did. She watched the video as she made sourdough sandwich bread and just made it right along with you.
Oh, that's so neat, Deborah. Thank you.
Chris Shepard wants to know if you can buy split flour at the grocery store.
I have got it at our Walmart before.
No, you can't just let that go.
No, I
He
can.
said split flour. SPLET.
I can let that go because I'm not a grammar Nazi like you.
Yeah,
That's probably how I would have spelt it anyway. Anyway, our Walmart has had it before. It did not have it the other day, Friday, when I went by there. I did pick up some because I didn't get my order from Azure. I did pick up some at Whole Foods in Jackson.
Which you paid a lot more for.
I did. I paid a lot more for it. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna try and get my order from Azure, and I can probably help you out with a little bit of spelt flour.
Probably help you out with a little split flour.
Grammar Nazi.
Linda says, "Do you?" Well, thank you. Deborah says, "You two are such a blessing."
Oh, you're a blessing.
Linda says, Patty, do you punch down the dough for the white bread?
I did. I guess that I didn't really come out and say that. I just kind of picked it up and I start working with it. So it kind of, I think I may have pushed it down a little bit. And then when I don't re-knead it though. I don't re-knead it. I feel like that turning under that I do, shaping my loaf, I feel like gets the kneading done and it'll grow up and be a nice pretty loaf. So
Tomas, Annie says she loves you and she is safe at camp. Kelly PB fam says she makes bread in Dutch ovens and it's amazing.
I've got to do it. I just haven't done it yet. But that method of heating up a pan before you put this bread in there was really neat too. So.
All right.
I didn't say that on this bread.
All right, hang on. While you get ready to say that, let me make this announcement. We're coming close to the end, right?
Yes, we are.
All right. So if I somehow missed your question, please retype it in all caps so we can catch it.
Yes,
or
please
if you've
do.
got a question you haven't asked yet, please put it in the chat in all caps, and we'll go through them one more time before we sign off here in a minute.
Yeah. Please put it in all caps. All right. We said 350 on the white bread for about 30 minutes. This artisan bread, the batter bread, is for 450, 15 to 20 minutes. Okay? So it's going to cook a lot faster. So 450, 15 to 20 minutes on that. I almost forgot that. I'm glad that question came up. So,
Leela Faye's going to send us pictures of her great-grandson's bread when they do it.
Good.
That's great. Yeah, you can, anybody who makes any bread, they can email it to bread@aldermanfarms.net.
yes.
Bread@aldermanfarms.net, or you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/aldermanfarms, and post a picture there. Or join our Friends of Alderman Farms Facebook group and put it there.
Yes. So anyway, if y'all heard Tommy, our Facebook page, our Friends of Alderman Farms Facebook page, or email it to us at bread@aldermanfarms.net, and because we'd love to share what y'all are doing.
Hey, Danny and Wanda.
Hey, Danny Wanda.
Well, thanks, Ellen. Ellen says thank you for doing this live stream.
Oh, well, I'm glad we got to. It's been a while. We were late because it's like trying to figure everything out again, so it's different than just being live on our phone.
So just a final word about, again, while we're doing this, there's a lot of stuff going on in the country right now. There's a lot of panic. I think to a high degree, undue panic. We do want to remember those who are sick with this virus and other viruses as well. But the current state of affairs in the economy is that stores are running out of stuff. People are making a run on the stores. And our oldest daughter, Chelsea, went to go get some bread today, and they didn't have any.
And she'd gone to, what's today? Monday? She'd gone last night and this morning. And somebody on here already said, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry, but they said that they went to the store and they're not going to have it until Thursday. They're going to get bread back in the stores, but it is a good thing to know how to be able to make it from scratch.
That's right. So Patty had the idea, look, let's go live tonight and show people a handful of little simple breads. They're not super fast, but they're also not all day bread making things.
Well, but the artisan bread is if you're making pita bread. You can be making pita bread in 1 hour from the time you mix it up, approximately, So, that is pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I have baked mine on the first rise and not let it do two. But anyway, they say not to, but it worked,
So, Patty, if you watched our coming back video of where has Alderman Farms been, you saw that Patty wanted us this year to do some videos focusing on becoming more self-sufficient. Well, this is our contribution to you. You are now immediately, as of this moment, more self-sufficient because if you've watched this video, you can make your own bread.
That's right.
Right now, probably most of you have what you need in your house right now.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. People that don't make bread may not have yeast. That's the only thing, but that's something that you can probably still get in the stores because most people don't know how to make bread.
Yep.
So, one thing I did want to tell y'all, I want to mention the conferences that we're planning to be at this year. You know, we're planning to be at the Homesteading Life Conference. That's Doug and Stacy's conference in Hannibal, Missouri. And that is going to be August 2nd and 3rd. And then at the Homesteaders of America conference, we're going to be at, I'm looking it up on the
October.
Yeah, it's October, but I'm trying to find it on my phone and I'm not able to find it on my phone. Can you help me out here, babe?
No, because I don't know where your phone
Anyway,
is.
the Homesteading Life Conference is in October, and we're planning to be there
No, it's
too.
not. The Homesteaders of America conference is in
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, I'm getting so confused. Homesteaders of America is in October.
And we've got a conference coming up Saturday, don't we?
We do. We have a conference coming up Saturday. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? With everything going on and everything getting canceled, we're going to be at a conference Saturday. And the conference is going to be a virtual conference. With Deep South, they ended up, out of an abundance of caution, and I'm so glad they did. They pulled the trigger on it last week that they were canceling the conference because of
The
everything
fellowship.
going on. Yeah, the fellowship. It's a YouTube fellowship that they put on every year. They have had like a conference where they've had speakers and stuff like that. But anyway, we were planning to go, but they went ahead and pulled the trigger and canceled it with everything going on. And I'm so glad they did it earlier rather than later because now they're suggesting really not more than 50 get together, and there is way more than 50 that head over there to Wiggins to see Danny and Wanda. But anyway, so we are going to actually be participating with Danny and Wanda on a virtual fellowship get together, and we will be singing and signing. And Wanda texted me earlier today, but she's tying up the loose ends. So if y'all will check out on Deep South Homestead's
Just ask
Facebook
her,
page.
say this out loud, or maybe it looks like they can possibly hear me.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked Wanda to post a link in the
great.
chat for an information link for the Deep South Homestead online spring gathering.
Yes. So she's going to post, Wanda's going to post a link that you can follow, and she's been working on some different things, and so it's going to be a fun day. Oh, bless you. Good job.
Way to sneeze into your elbow.
Yes. But anyway, she'll be posting what's going to be coming up. I know we're going to be around Saturday doing that. It's going to be Saturday. Bless you, my darling. And but there's going to be some giveaways, and you're going to have to tune in. She may announce some of the different giveaways. I don't know, but I'm not going to give it away. But in fact, we're going to be helping with the giveaway, I believe. That's the last I heard. So anyway.
All right, Donna C is making bread and right now watching us.
Oh,
and,
great.
that other Deborah said it tastes so much better when you make it at home.
That's right.
Let's see here. I think that is about it. So, you ready to sign off here?
I am. I thank y'all so much for joining us. And if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up if you appreciate or you enjoyed the information. Anything else we need to say, Tomas?
Make sure to stay tuned for 10 Minute Tuesday, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big fat thumbs up.
Thank y'all. And thank y'all so much for being here.
Bye.
Bye.